Hi there, Karen here, with my buddy Whiskey Sour, still holding my tea really close to me. I'm in tea season now. You know, there's only two seasons for me. There's like water, and then there's tea. So when it gets really hot in California, I just drink water all summer, and then around this time of year, I switch to tea. So cold. I just can't tell you how cold I am. Now, in all fairness, I should be ashamed of myself for talking about how cold I am to all my Canadian friends up north. I do know how cold it's getting up there. I think when you drop everything you're doing in life and you move 3,000 miles to California, you kind of expect that kind of sacrifice that you would just at least get the warm weather that's promised here, but it's been so cold. So it just makes me feel like I gotta go north to get some heat, sit by a fireplace up somewhere north. But it's part of it is this apartment too. It's just the heating, and the heater's broken half the time, and there's no air con, and I've never really needed it. I just like the open windows, but I basically feel like I'm camping all the time. It's just whatever the weather wants to do, I get to be a part of that. Maybe that's healthier, I don't know. We kind of shut ourselves into the heat and air con all the time too, and I don't know if that's super healthy, but whatever. I'm looking forward to, as I said before leaving. Talk about sacrifice. I wrote a blog today called "Are You Chopping Off Your Own Branches?" And I'm more than happy to disperse advice to musicians. As you guys know, Frank and I've worked on and produced so many records now, and I've written, seriously, and I'm not even kidding when I say this, I've written over 1,000 songs. I've just been in this industry for so long now, and worked with so many people, and met so many people, and learned so much, and still have lots to learn. I've been a ghostwriter on records, and I'm not even allowed to say that was me. I've been through the whole gamut. I've basically been at it for a really long time, and so I have a lot of people who recognize that I've been at it for a really long time and ask for advice. And music used to be an external hobby in my life, which turned into a career. My view of that is very flawed, though, just how I look at music. I get a lot of people emailing me, asking me for music industry advice. And I'm more than happy to share my latest view, because I always think that I learn and I grow and I change so much that my views and my advice might even change on where I'm at or where the music industry's at all times. And I realize that it's actually not a hobby or a career that I got going on. I can kind of call it that, but my latest revelation is that it's an appendage. I've always said it's part of me, but I've just come to realize that music is one of my appendages. That's the end. That's the advice. Something I hear often is how musicians will tell me how they have sacrificed so much for their music. And it's a word that I'm quick to react to, that word sacrifice. We could get into a long, heated debate about the word sacrifice and all the meanings, from religion to just things that we sacrifice in our day, or relationships that we sacrifice to have to do other things, or maybe we have to go to work, and so then we have to sacrifice the music. It's kind of it's a word that I would encourage any artist, or if you're a writer or a musician, to just ditch that word when you're describing your art. Sacrifice is a big word. It's a much bigger word with a huge meaning, that it's not something we should just be throwing around when we're considering describing our art or our music or whatever. Sacrifice means that there's some kind of choice involved, and perhaps you have to choose work over music. That seems pretty standard, but to me, you're not choosing one over the other if it's truly a part of you. When I say that, I used to work 12-hour days minimally, whether I was in the hairdressing industry or in the women's health facility, or just other random jobs I've had over the years. I've always found time to do music because it called me to do it. It just simply was an appendage. It could be 4 in the morning I was doing it. So it wasn't like I was choosing one over the other. And even if you sing in your car on the way to work, it's still part of you. Like if it's this moving spirit, it's still part of you. So it's not a choice situation as far as I'm concerned. For me, music isn't a choice. And once I realized that it wasn't a hobby or a career to begin with, it could just fly. without any pressure that I was adding to it. If our art is a way of life as opposed to pressuring it to do something, I believe we can enjoy the new freedom of what that means. This is an example of a non-physical or a detached appendage which still moves with us or moves within us. People who connect deeply with their friends or people who connect deeply with animals will totally understand this concept as well. Excuse me. There are people who we have picked to be a part of our life, and we wouldn't prune them from our tree because it's simply not an option. It's not an option. My grandfather used to say, when you asked him why he was married to my grandmother for 55 years, he said, because splitting up was not an option. If you decide that something is simply not an option, it becomes a part of you. It becomes a part of that appendage. And people who have dedicated their lives to helping animals, they quite often don't choose to do that either. It chooses them, and I think that's pretty cool. I believe when we let someone or something, like music or whatever, choose us, it's just simply a deeper connection. It's my thought on it. I see this with children whose parents want them to go to karate, for instance, or ballet. And on the way to their ballet or karate class, they pass by a music store where there's a guitar in the window. You know, it's like the whole Jimi Hendrix accordion versus guitar window scene. And it calls to them every single day, and then all through karate class, all they can think about is that guitar. You know, they can't. A child cannot explain to you what is drawing them or why that instrument draws them in. It simply does. And if it calls them and they accept it, it becomes like a branch on their tree. And when we wander around thinking of what should we do to feel connected to someone, or what could we do with our life or our career or whatever to feel deeply connected to whatever we're doing, it almost always will feel disconnected. And therefore, we can easily ditch it at any point in time. This is why people will pick up hobbies and drop them as quick as they pick them up, because of the detachment. It's not a limb on my tree. It's not an appendage. I can ditch that at any time I want. So you go to that basket weaving session on Monday night, you feel completely detached and disconnected, I don't know why, and you just ditch the class. There's nothing for you there. And you can do it pretty easily without having really any guilt, and there's not much effort to ditch it. You just, away it goes. Didn't feel like you sawed it off. I gave this particular musician that just recently emailed me, I gave him some advice yesterday, and he said, after I gave him this advice that I sort of just dispensed, he said, "Call me crazy, I already feel better about my music simply by removing the fight from the equation." And I was just, I thought that was so awesome, that he doesn't have to fight with it. I love hearing that. I feel like he can now begin a really solid relationship with his music. And because he can just let go a bit. And I'm really excited when I hear that. Okay, so that's a case of something that we just cannot prune, or that we shouldn't prune. If music really truly is a part of your life, even if you're just one of these people who loves listening to music and you have it cranking in your car or from your speakers every day, how do you feel when that branch is cut off? Like, there's some things in our life we can easily prune off, and there's some things we just can't prune off because they are a part of us. And I maintain that a musician or artist cannot cut off their own arm. They just cannot do it. They will bleed to death. If you are truly one of these people who absolutely has to have that connection, you will understand what I'm saying when I say that. If you're at a point in your life where you don't even know what your connection is, you might still be on that journey. But if you distinctly know what your connection is in this life, you are unable to cut that off yourself, you will bleed to death. And there's something inside a musician or an artist who actually will stop the saw blade from cutting in. It's this kind of this protective thing that goes on. It's like, no, that's my arm. So you try to ditch your music or your art or your writing or whatever you're involved with. And the spirit will actually help repair that, which I have had this happen so many times. It's amazing. It's one of the things science cannot explain. And that's, I love anything that's part of the mysteries of the world that science can't fully get a grip on. And I found that the spirit, for me, will do it really loudly. Like they'll take all the tools in the toolbox and all the big tools, like the saws and everything from the shed, And so then I can't ignore that it's under repair. When I would try to walk away from the art, it called me back. And it's a really healthy relationship that I have with art and music that can't be ignored, unlike all these codependent relationships that I have had where, it's really unhealthy for me. The music relationship I have and the art relationship I have, we grow together by helping each other when we let go a little bit. And it frees me, and then I set it free as well. I welcome it as an appendage. I realize it's not going anywhere. I don't put the pressure on it. And my own relationship with music has helped me to strengthen the relationships I have with other people too. I don't put that pressure on my friends. They don't put pressure on me. I do what I can to let them grow. They give me the freedom to grow. And I don't control the music now. I just let it flow. I don't put these big heavy demands on it. And of course, there are still parts of my tree that require pruning. And I'm still on my journey, figuring all that out. But I just need to be careful not to cut off the ones which share my main arteries. And for me, music and art is that. So I signed off today with too tired to fight, even if I wanted to. Energized because I choose not to. Such a cool reward. Yeah, I am too tired to fight the music anymore. I'm too tired to fight that call that it's always calling me. But then the fact that I chose not to fight, I have this new energy where I want to have a relationship with my music now. It doesn't matter who hears it. I'm having this, really awesome time with the next STEVER record that I'm working on, where I've got some characters and I'm having fun having a relationship with them, and it's really cool, and I don't put any pressure on them. And there's no sacrifice involved. I'm not choosing one thing over music. That would be like me saying, well, I have to go to work today, so I have to choose between that and cutting off my arm. It's not a choice. It's not even in the equation. So that would be the advice I would dispense. At this point in time, check in with me again when I figured out some other stuff, and I could be totally wrong. But that's the advice I would dispense right now. I signed off with a quote. I actually have found two quotes I really liked. Sometimes that happens to me. The first one was by Edna Ferber, who said, "A stricken tree, a living thing, so beautiful, so dignified, so admirable in its potential longevity, is, next to man, perhaps the most touching of wounded objects." Love that quote. Beautiful. And then Spike Milligan had a quote where he said, "A sure cure for seasickness is to sit under a tree." So maybe we are all feeling a little seasick in our life with all the decisions that we have to make and the choices that we have to make, and what's my career and what's my hobby and what's this and what's that. I think if we can figure out what's our appendage, what's truly just a part of us that does not even enter the equation of choice. And for some of us who, don't say all of us because not all of us have figured it out, but for some of us who have come to the realization that music and art and our writing or anything that we truly are passionate about, it has become an appendage that we're unwilling to give up, and it's not part of the equation, that frees us. Because then you don't have to make poor choices about your art. And some people do that in this industry, will make very poor choices about their music according to the fact that they have to make money from it or whatever. And it's just like, just let it be part of yourself. There's such a freedom in that, such a beauty in that. So I really love that Spike Milligan quote. The cure for seasickness. Sit back under our tree. So I wanted to share that with you guys today. I hope you're not cutting off your branches. We all have to figure out what our own branches are, but I hope you're not cutting yours off, because if there's something that you feel is really a part of you and shares your main arteries, that needs to stay with you. Look for options in other places, but that needs to stay with you. So I hope that you do not cut off those crucial branches. All right, so Whiskey, I know you didn't say a lot today, but can you say goodbye or no? Nothing? Not today? All right, guys, until next time, from Whiskey Sour and me, rock on.